Once upon a time, in the United States of America, before 1913, citizens could keep every single cent they earned. They didn't have to file any declarations with the government stating how much they made and giving the federal authorities their share. Their finances were their business and no one else's. They had the right to earn, own, and keep their property, and this was guaranteed by law and American tradition. There were no tax audits, account freezes, or any other form of government extortion. And the question that arises is, how did the government finance itself? The government derived its revenue from customs duties, which, as a revenue strategy, was more than enough because the federal government in 1885, in today's dollars, spent 20 times less than it does now. And yet people thought the government was too big and wanted to shrink it. Recently, Donald Trump stated that he would abolish the income tax and make up for the lack of that money with tariffs on imported goods. And he referred to this period of American history before 1913 as the period of greatest economic growth ever seen in the United States. What Trump doesn't tell us is that at that time, there was much more individual freedom and sound money because the dollar was pegged to the gold standard. There was no central bank or the Federal Reserve. And the government did not interfere in the private financial lives of Americans as it does today. All of these factors explain the true reason for the economic progress of that period. Trump also tells us that the income tax created in 1913 replaced customs duties, but the historical reality is quite different. Customs duties were not abolished. The income tax simply became a second source of revenue. And thanks to the 16th Amendment, along with the income tax, in the same year the Federal Reserve was created, and these two elements became the source of income for a demonic leviathan that financed the First World War and continues to haunt us today. The 16th Amendment was presented as tax reform, but it turned out to be a real silent revolution against the American people, and that was soon copied by every country in the world. In his book, The Income Tax, Root of All Evil, journalist Frank Chodorow clearly describes what was being enacted at the time. A fundamental text, almost like Machiavelli's The Prince for Politics. He wrote, "This amendment removes all limits on confiscation by the government, which can, by law, take everything the citizen earns to the point of depriving him of everything that is not mere subsistence, which barely allows him to produce something that can be confiscated." In other words, it gives the government a right of first refusal on all goods produced by its subjects, as if the state were to become a large estate that absorbs everything. In short, with the simple inscription of this text in the pages of the American Constitution in 1913, the absolute right to property in the United States was abolished. He also wrote, "No monarchy or empire in the history of the world has ever exercised as much power over the citizen as the American government, nor has it had at its disposal so much wealth of the people. We retain the forms and formulas of a republic, but in reality, we live under an oligarchy of bureaucrats." In the United States, or in the rest of the world, everyone would be in favor of abolishing the income tax. Why then does no president or leader promote such an idea? Precisely because it would enlighten and make people extremely aware. It would be like the Enlightenment for tax awareness. It would make the people of the world understand that governments live off their backs, and for any political class it would be impossible to dominate an aware population. There is no way around math. Believing that Trump will abolish income tax is like believing in Santa Claus. It is not possible to keep government parasites on customs duties alone. Some think Trump is Superman and Musk is Tony Stark, forgetting that they are the product of the same system. A system that wants us subdued, poor, and ignorant as they hand out statements that please a dominated mass, waiting for their true desires to come true. That is, to live in a transhumanism of the rich and powerful, who reign supreme and are served by robots on a planet of slaves. Is this the future we want?